that we passed out prior to the start of the meeting. So mainly going to focus on that PowerPoint presentation, but really happy to address any comments or questions that you might have on any of the documents tonight. So before we get into the presentation, wanted to talk a little bit about the audit process this year. So we spent over 300 hours auditing the books and records of the village this year. And so, as you can imagine, that's okay. That's quite a bit of time on our teams, but not only is that our team's time, but Debbie's time in terms of getting ready for us and really her whole team, and then also answering all of our questions and things while we're here, as well as Jerry. I know we speak with various members on council as well. So appreciate all the input and feedback that we receive at the beginning of the process, throughout the process as well, as it helps to make sure that not only is the process efficient, but that we're getting at the right things during the audit process and addressing the risk appropriately. Happy to report that we did issue an unmodified opinion again this year. So basically what that means is it's the highest level of assurance you can receive from your auditors, and it means you can rely on the numbers as they are stated within the financial statements. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Hunter and let us start taking you through some of those numbers. Hunter?
Thank you, Pam. My name is Hunter. I'm here to give just a high-level overview of the general fund's revenues, expenditures, and fund balance. So if you could flip to the revenue slide. This slide right here shows the general fund revenue of the last 3 years. Historically, the largest revenue sources from the village are property taxes, charges for services, and intergovernmental revenue. Intergovernmental revenue would consist of state share revenue along with other state and federal grant revenue. So in 2023, the village saw revenue increase by approximately $450,000. And this was mainly due to ARPA funds. And we also saw a slight increase in property tax revenue. And this was due to the village's total taxable property value increasing by, I think, approximately $10 million during fiscal year 2023. And then moving on to the next slide, we'll go over the general fund expenditures. Historically, the village's largest expenditures are related to public safety, which in 2023 make up 68% of total expenditures. Total expenditures as a whole increased by roughly $750,000 compared to 2022. And public safety expenditures increased by nearly $470,000, and this was due to ARPA funds being used on public safety projects. The other/capital category that you see on the graph also saw a large increase of about $150,000 from the prior year, and once again, this was due to ARPA fund projects. Moving on to the next slide, we have the fund balance of the general fund. And you can see the fund balance is broken out into 3 categories, those being committed, which these funds have restrictions on them based on the authority by the council. Assigned, these are funds the village has earmarked for a specific purpose. And unassigned, and these would be all spendable funds after considering your committed and assigned fund balance. And the key takeaway on this slide is that fund balance as a whole decreased by nearly $130,000 from the prior year, and this was due to mainly the use of unassigned funds on public safety and recreation and culture expenditures. And now I'll pass it along to Chris, who will go over the water and sewer fund.
All right, thank you, Hunter. So sticking with the theme of staying high level and doing a trend analysis, I'm on slide number 5, looking at the sewer fund. So looking here, we have operating revenues in the green bar or tealish bar, and then operating expenses in the orange bar. And I'm looking at the far right for 2023. So total operating revenue for 2023 was just shy of 1.8 million, and really just a slight increase from 2022. The majority of that operating revenue is sewer sales or sewage disposal charges, which increased about 2% consistent with rates. And the remaining amount of that operating revenue is really interest and recoveries that went down a little bit, but overall a minor increase in your total operating revenue. And then total operating expenses, that was about 2.1 million in fiscal year 2023. So this was a decrease of about 172,000 from 2022, which is mostly related to wages and benefits. But there also was a cost recovery this year with the OPEB liability decreasing. So which we'll talk a little bit more. We'll see in a few slides. So the overall expense amount is more consistent with 2 years ago in 2021. So now this is taking into consideration the true operating revenue expenses, not necessarily the debt service charge or any capital grants or tap-in fees. So overall, the sewer fund has been operating at a loss the past several years. The operating loss was $310,000 in 2023. So the operating loss, for context, was nearly double back in 2020. So the gap has closed somewhat, but the fund is still operating at a loss in 2023. So now transitioning the black line here in the middle, that represents unrestricted net position, which is another good benchmark to look at. So this amount of net position, that's the amount of net position after backing out your investment in infrastructure. So, and any restrictions as well. So the total unrestricted net position for the sewer fund was nearly 1.8 million as of 6/30/2023. So this is a number that is something worth keeping an eye on. And based on operations, this is a stable amount of net position. However, it is important to know that this could easily get used up as you have capital needs in the future and as other needs arise. So it's just important to remember to keep a good, strong balance here. And then on that same theme, I'm going to turn over one slide to the water fund and kind of cover the same information here. So this is presented the same way, 2023 on the far right. So total operating revenue for the water fund in particular was almost 1.3 million, which is up about 70,000 from the previous year. And that increase is consistent with and mostly related to an increase in water usage during the year. So, and this increased usage also is the main driver of the increase in operating expenses. So, which was up about 107,000 in the year from the previous year, for a total of about 1.6 million in 2023 was the total operating expenses. So similar to sewer, the water fund has been operating at a loss for the last several years, about 340,000 in particular in 2023, which has been pretty consistent as operating revenue and operating expenses have been increasing at about the same rate the last several years. And then the black line again represents your unrestricted net position, which was nearly 3.2 million for the water fund as of 6/30/23. So similar to sewer, this is a stable amount based on operations, but again, could get used up easily. So it's just important to remember to continue to maintain a strong balance here. And then just overall for both sewer and water funds, it's just a good idea to continue to monitor where you are, look at these trends, and this will help you to identify if enough revenue is being brought in to run the systems, and additionally to set aside for your any future capital needs. And then I'm going to turn to legacy costs on the last slide here, slide 7. So this is looking at your pension and retiree healthcare. So like many other local units, the village has two major employee benefit obligations. The first one being on the far left, those two represent the pension plan that's at MERS. So the total assets in the plan is this teal bar, which is just under 8 million. And then the orange bar that's on the right is the liability that is about 17.7 million. So with that being said, just under 45% funded. One thing I want to mention is the village has been making additional contributions the last 3 or 4 years or several years. And it's just important to remember on this one in particular, this one's a little goofy because it's measured and valued as of on a 6-year lag or 6-month lag. So this plan is valued as of December on a calendar year basis. So this is kind of looking back even further. So this is kind of taking into consideration, you have to remember there was a dip in the market around this time at the end of 2022. So that's being reflected in this balance here, because if you were to look at last year, it was about 51% funded. And then another thing I wanted to mention was that The village did receive an additional $2 million subsequent to year end in relation to a pension grant from the state. So any local unit that was below 60% funded received that pension grant. So you should see that number go up next year, assuming everything holds, the market as well, and the actuarial assumptions don't change significantly. And then I'll focus on retiree healthcare on the right-hand side here. So this plan is valued as of your fiscal year end, so you don't have to worry about any lags here. So it's as of 6/30. So most of the investment loss impact was in the previous year. So total assets in this plan was about $312,000, and compared to a total liability of about $330,000, which puts you at about 95% funded here, which compared to last year was 65% funded. And one of the main reasons for that increase is related to an amendment to the plan. So the plan for the retiree healthcare in particular is closed now and to a specific group. So the remaining participants were bought out and moved over to a healthcare savings plan at MERS. So overall, you were, again, even looking back further, you were at 53% funded in 2018. So the OPEB plan is in better shape than many others, I would say, and well above the benchmark of 40% that the state has set. So I know that was a lot. Any questions on anything we've covered so far? Yeah, please.
Sorry. Yeah, no, you're okay. Thank you. So I just wanted to maybe kind of recap what these fine gentlemen have just talked about. So I would say just in general fund, again, ended the year in a stable minimum fund balance. You budgeted, your amended budget was to use up $60,000 or $70,000. You ended up using up a little bit more than that, so you came in a little over budget. You're about between 20 and 30% in your unassigned fund balance in comparison to your total expenses. So that means that you could go 2 months, 2.5 months or so without any cash coming in, and you'd still be able to pay your bills, pay your payroll, all of those kind of things. So that is a stable minimum, but I do want to caution, especially for a community your size, when are you dealing with smaller budgets, 30% of a smaller budget is not as much from a cash perspective. So just making sure to keep that in mind when you're looking at your continued long-term planning. You really want to pay attention to that minimum amount and make sure that you don't dip down too far below that. Perfect example was back in 08, 09. A lot of communities that really struggled were communities that were already kind of at their minimum. So hopefully we're not going to see anything like that again. That was hopefully a once in a lifetime thing for all of us, but it is something to just be cautious of because, as Hunter pointed out, your major revenue source is property taxes. So any type of change in law or fluctuation in value really has a significant impact on the village's operation. So just keeping that in mind. And then lastly, just super brief on OPEB. I think Chris did a nice job of summarizing where pension's going to be. Excited to see where your 12/31/23 valuation comes out. The market's definitely in a little bit of a better spot than it was in 2022, plus with the additional funding. So hoping that number is going to be over 60% by the time we get that in April or May. So we'll see where that lies. But really, I think kudos to management and the board and really all the employees and union groups working together on the change in your retiree health care. It really is a win-win, I think, for both the individuals in the plan and the village because we don't have very many clients that can say they're almost fully funded in their retiree health care and really have a limit on that liability. And so what that really means for you is that you can focus on some other areas that you need to, like maybe your pension liability or other long-term items that you're looking at in terms of growth. So really, just from a high level, I think that's one positive in the news that we have here today in terms of long-term outlook. So just keep that in mind. Any questions, like Chris said, though, on the numbers before we move on? All right.
So in 1 year, we caught up on the OPEB because we cut legacy costs and went to
So again, it was mainly due to the change in what you were, in the individuals in the plan. So significant amount of individuals came out of the plan and are now receiving a health care savings account. So more like the contribution to that account is a defined amount that the village is paying, as opposed to kind of this infinite, like, we will pay your retiree health care until you're no longer around.
And
So,
that was specifically the village police or all of the village staff?
do you remember? You know better than me.
That was actually everyone except the police station.
Everyone
Everyone
but-
except the police station. Okay, thank you.
So what's left here is the police?
Correct, and prior, people that retired prior to being offered, we only offered it to current employees.
Okay. And I know the police are actively working on their legacy costs as well. Okay, it looks like this was a brilliant move. I just wanted clarity on that. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Any other questions from council?
All right.
Are we still carrying from past retirees?
Oh,
It's pretty,
About 20,
it's
isn't
a good bit, isn't it?
it's a lot, yeah, I wouldn't wanna guess without having it in front of me, but I could look that up for if you wanna know. But yeah, it is quite a few people, still.
In the retire for OPEB?
For the
for-
retirement and OPEB, no, we only have, I think, 3 people eligible for
Yeah.
the OPEB right now that are retired, but we have 5 or 6 that are.
5 active plan members.
5 active.
As of
plan
June
members,
30.
5 as of June 30th that are not retired yet, that will.
Correct.
elect.
So they were grandfathered.
They did not switch over to the healthcare
Okay,
savings,
okay,
they
that's what I'm
stayed
asking.
where they were.
Thanks.
I might make a comment that, just for clarification, that, the term was used that values went up by around $10 million. We need to make sure that the community understands that doesn't mean our revenues went up by $10 million.
No, the value of their property.
Collectively, all of your properties went up by $10 million. So our tax increase was 40,000.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. When I heard that, I'm like, wait a minute. We don't want people thinking we're now sitting at $10 million. They are, but we are.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Anyone else with any questions or comments? Ms. Hill, Mr. Gilbert, Mr. Clark, thank you all very much.
Thank you. All
Thank
right,
you for your
thank
good
you very
work.
much.
You have a way of taking some really complicated stuff and making it understandable.
All right, thank you.
Have a very Merry Christmas.
Yes, you all too. Thank you so much.
Next, public comment. Members of the public may address council once recognized by the chairperson. Comments are limited to a maximum of 4 minutes for items not on the agenda. Council may extend this time by up to an additional 4 minutes by a majority vote. For items on the agenda, comments may be made after council discussion prior to council vote. Prior to addressing council, members of the public shall state their name and address for the record. Is there anyone for public comment? Mr. Shield.
Ryan Shield, 320 LeGrand Street, obviously, Holly. A few days ago, the Legion down just between Sherman and Saginaw held an event, which I have no qualms with. And on that event, or during that event, there was an accident there because people park along Sherman Street instead of in the Legion parking lot. And the reason why I bring this up is I was wondering if there would be a way to possibly get some parking sign, like no parking signs between, or some form of no parking signs or of some sort along between Saginaw and LeGrand to prevent people from parking on or along the street to prevent another accident. And because people can come around and cause accidents on that street, on Sherman Street again. I just don't want to cause another accident on that street again, for public safety. That's just about all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Shield. Anyone else for public comment?
Could you just leave the microphone over there?
Yeah. Yes. Ms. Blanchard.
No, she's got a big packet.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you very much.
Mary Blanchard. Mary Blanchard, 3444 Old Creek Drive, Holly, Michigan. And I have presented a 3-part packet. The first part has to deal with the official Eat Safe Fish Guide. Bush Lake and Rice Lake have officially been added to this for contaminated fish. What this means is that the residents of anybody who fishes there needs to be mindful of eating too many of the fish so that they are not bioaccumulating contaminants in their body. This is especially true for children, pregnant women, and the elderly. So these documents were presented to the Village of Holly and to Holly Township on August 29th. And they have yet to be included in the agenda to say that the residents need to be notified. There's also a draft that was put together by MDHHS in November of 2022, which does include PFOS information on the fish, and it is not included in the official listing. When you look at the packets and you look at Bush Lake, if you look at this lake that is directly underneath for Cass Lake, it lists both mercury and PFOS. And for Bush Lake, it only lists mercury. And there is, at the very end of that packet, an email by Lisa Fisher, who in, I believe, 2022 had stated that the PFOS would qualify for a guideline on their own, but because mercury is the greater concern, that they will only be listed for mercury. On the next portion of that, there is a group of emails, including our clerks, the MPART director, and Brandon Reed with MDHHS, that identifies that the public notification has varying aspects, but it does not include notifying the residents of those lakes directly or the municipalities, I believe. The last part has to do with emails that I've had from the MPART director, Abby Hendershot, where Eagle Management has refused the Save Falk Road Committee request to invite all agencies dealing with all aspects of hydrology throughout Holly as requested during a May 2021 town hall meeting. They are stating that the Save Falk Road Committee has been notified of all the regulatory actions, and we strongly disagree.
I would make a motion to give Mary 2 additional minutes.
I'll second.
Motion by Kinnaman, support by Brandon to extend by 2 minutes. We can do a voice vote on that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ms.
Thank
Blanchard?
you. The last part is that early in 2023, I was advised that the village of Holly had been notified that Eagle and Empart were going to hold a town hall meeting for our residents. We had not heard that that was going to happen, and in March of 2023, I did request to Eagle and varying staff that we have dealt with over the years that they hold the town hall meeting, but they also include other aspects of hydrology, which are not included dealing with the Falk Road dump. There are many other aspects. This meeting has been denied. What also was denied was the Empart Eagle Town Hall meeting dealing with the Falk Road dump and contamination. Our residents deserve better because Empart and Eagle are continuing to hold meetings for other communities throughout this state. Holly does not deserve to be left in the dark. Currently, what they are proposing is that the $200,000 spent of state money will be reported on in 2024 after a conceptual site model, which has been discussed for 3 years. After that is completed, then they will hold a town hall, and this will likely only deal with the dump and not with all of the hydrology issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Blanchard. Is there anyone else for public comment? All right, hearing none, seeing none. Moving on to new business, there is no old business. Item number 1 under new business, consideration of the acceptance of the fiscal year 2022-2023 audit report.
I make the motion to accept the report as presented.
Motion by Kinnaman, support by Musgrave to accept the fiscal year 22-23 audit report as presented. Is there any discussion desired from council on this item? All right. Is there any public comment desired on this item? Sir,
Patrick Sullivan, 1120.
please approach the microphone. And
1120 Humble Drive, Holly.
thank you.
Do we suspect that this, the insurance for the retirees, do we expect that to remain at the same level of funding? Now that we've made the amendment to the budget and moved the people over to the,
The accountant stated that in 6 months, that it's 6 months behind, and that we will see the revision of it then.
perhaps I didn't phrase the question properly. The retirement benefits, the OPEB funding, which is at 94% now. Do we expect that to be perpetual, like it'll always be around 94% until there's no one left on the OPEB, except of course the police officers?
Yeah.
Yes, it will decrease, as those people are off of it. New employees are not entered into it, so it's only the current employees.
So the level of funding will always stay at least at the 94% that it's at now, and then perhaps go up.
Yeah, it should go up as people turn 65 and go on Medicare.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else for public comment on this item? Very good. We have a motion and support. Ms. Bigger, roll call vote, please.
Harrington.
Yes.
Kinnaman.
Yes.
Kyer.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Brandon.
Yes.
Delaney.
Yes. Motion carries. Item number 2, under new business, consideration of the approval of council action request to discuss creating a Sister Cities program. Ms. Brandon?
Mr. Engelberg reached out to me, and he asked me to read this on his behalf. He said, "Good evening, everyone. I apologize for not being here in person tonight. I was put in charge of a clinic for a group of young Huron Valley basketball officials this evening. I want to reiterate my enthusiasm and commitment towards helping Holly become re-engaged with the Sister Cities program. As you discuss it tonight, I think you will realize there are no downside or pitfalls to the program. Once we agree to participate, the group leaders from Sister Cities will assist us in every aspect of the process, including finding another community to partner up with us. As I mentioned in my previous statement to the council, I would like to offer, and it would be my pleasure, to finance the first year of our involvement. That offer comes with no strings attached and no expectations. If the council would like or allow me to have involvement with any committee going forward beyond that, I would take great pleasure in serving. However, to be clear, my donation does not come with any expectations. I would like to thank Councilmember April Brandon for reading this into the record and for being my sounding board as I put this forward. I hope this council will embrace this chance to bring our community into a multicultural program that can benefit everyone in this village, young and old, business owners, as well as residents. It will open as many doors for us as we in our sister city are willing to walk through and present opportunities for everyone to expand their connections on this planet we all share. Thank you." I read that to kind of remind everyone what Sister Cities was, because he kind of touched on a lot of the main points from it. And, well, I suppose, sure.
How do you get matched up with the city, or is that done through the Sister Cities program?
They help you, and you have a lot of autonomy in it. So if they said, well, here's, 10 choices or 100 choices, we could say, oh, we're really leaning towards this for this particular reason. Like the city in Canada that has Star Trek thing, we could lean towards that. I'm just saying.
You would be our ambassador?
Well, sure, if you really want to twist my arm, and I personally, I'd like to see a representative from the library involved. If we would go forward with this, because I feel that the library is our cultural hub, and they would have a lot of great ideas, And I'd like to see members of both the village and the township involved together on this, so that we could all work together as a team to best represent Holly. Have someone that's a veteran on there, and that's about the extent of my ideas. I think between what Debbie wrote on here and what Tony had to say, everybody gets the point, so, thank you.
And I would, I was just going to say, and I would just add, for the sake of the public who might be thinking, what on earth are we talking about? The Village of Holly participated in the past in the Sister Cities program. Our sister city was Leamington, Ontario. And for reasons that nobody has quite been able to determine, that agreement was terminated in 2006. So we've recently had some interest in reviving that program.
What does the
That was
program
before
cost?
my time here, so.
Do you remember, Tony said what it was last time. I want to say, he
was
said
somewhere like around-
130?
I was thinking 230.
Yes, yes, it was a little over $200
So, a
per
couple
year.
hundred. Yeah.
So-
So
Offered to pay the first year.
he offer to pay the first year, no strings attached, although he would like to be involved. So yeah, that would, in the future, obviously come out of the budget, or we could solicit donations, I suppose.
Right. Well, and I see Mr. Gildner leaning forward there. I would be interested in the legality of the village accepting that kind of donation towards the program.
There'd
Is
be
there
no
a-
problem. I mean, just like
perfect.
any other donation, it would have to be accepted, and it would be clear that it is in fact a donation, no strings attached, no expectations, and then you can go forward from there. No problems.
Beautiful.
I think it's a great idea.
I personally would like to see Tony involved if the rest of council didn't have an issue with it.
I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily the greatest foot forward. I just say it without saying it.
We've
but
been burned
there-
before.
Well, and I,
Legal issues
There
that
are
I'd
some
be
other legal
concerned
things that
about.
have happened in the last year or so that might make it a little more difficult for us to say, that old stuff still doesn't create an ethics issue.
so I would just say to that, what we are considering is simply authorizing staff to execute the reviving of the Sister Cities program, and not particularly any one who would be involved in that project outside of staff, at this time anyway.
I think later it might be that you might recommend appointments to a committee.
Correct, yeah.
I was going to ask if you thought that one of our current committees would already be appropriate for it. I'd rather lean towards building a new one myself with specific interest in it.
Right. That's what I would probably suggest.
I would agree, yeah.
Oh, hey, we're back.
Hooray.
I think,
Yeah.
well, I think the program would be a great idea.
Can I make a motion that we move forward with the approval of council action request to discuss, or to actually create a sister city program?
I second.
Right. Motion by Musgrave, support by Brandon. Is there any further council discussion desired on this before we move on to public comment?
No?
Just
I think
to
it's a cool idea.
note that, as well, that what Mr. Engelberg brought to us before was that membership is in like the consortium or whatever, the organization that facilitates, and we can have multiple, if we want, sister cities in that membership.
So
Very
there's
cool.
no additional charge?
Nope, that's what he said, is it's a membership in the club.
Very good. Is there any public comment desired on this item? Mr. Shield.
Ryan Shield, 320 LeGrand Street, Holly, Michigan. It sounds like what I'm hearing is Miss Brandon is nominating herself.
Yep.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment on this item?
She just wants to go to the Star Trek Museum.
Yeah.
Boldly go where no pro tem has gone before. I think we're ready for a roll call vote on that item.
Kinnaman,
Yes.
Kyer,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Brandon.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
Delaney.
Yes. Motion carries. Item number 3, under new business, special event, Community Christmas Eve service. Who would like to present on this
I was
item?
just gonna make a
Isn't this,
motion.
don't they do this every year?
Yeah, they do it every year.
They do.
It's only in new business as it is under the 60-day limit. in Battle Alley, the village
Yep.
does,
Carol's,
some of
correct?
it, they don't use anything of the village. I'm sorry?
Carol's, mainly?
But they do a whole.
Carols and
service.
candlelights and it's about, yeah.
Festivity?
Yes,
Very good.
we've done it about 3 years, I think.
Sure.
I make the motion to approve the special event, community Christmas Eve service.
Motion by Perkins, support by Musgrave, to approve the special event, Community Christmas Eve Service in Battle Alley. Is there any council discussion desired on this item? Is there any public comment desired on this item? Ms. Bigger, roll call vote, please.
Hyer,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Brandon.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
Kinnaman.
Yes.
Delaney.
Yes. Motion carries. Reports. Mr. Gilder, anything for us this evening?
The only thing, I mentioned at the last meeting about Greenstones. I told you that I expected a decision relatively soon, and we received it late last week, on Friday. That was the lawsuit that Greenstone filed against the village when they were one of the marijuana facilities that was not given approval to open here. They sued under a number of theories. I defended it. The case was dismissed last Friday on our motion in its entirety. Their time for filing an appeal will not run until later this month. If I recall correctly, the 28th or 29th, something along those lines. But case dismissed. So I'll let you know if they pursue an appeal. I frankly don't expect one. But at least that's one piece of litigation that is off the table.
Very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Gilder, and thank you for your work on that.
Well done.
Ms. Bigger, anything to add to your written report?
No, nothing to add to my written report this month.
All right. Boards and commissions updates and council comments. Ms. Kyer.
Neither ethics nor parks met this month, so I have nothing.
Thank you, Ms. Kyer. Mr. Kinnaman.
Planning Commission did not meet in November and will not meet in December either. Nothing coming before us. Merry Christmas to everybody. And Chamber has a ribbon cutting tomorrow in Battle Alley for a new business. And Friday, Wingelmeyers celebrate 165 years in business.
Wow. Very good. Thank you. President Pro Tem Brandon.
Thank you. The library has a food pantry, and we just finished getting it fully on the up and up with licensing and everything. So it's more regularly monitored and regulated now. And happy whatever holidays you celebrate, and Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much. Mr. Perkins.
HDC meets on Thursday. Dickens was a good time this year. And happy holidays all.
Thank you. Ms. Musgrave.
Nothing to report, and the same to everyone. Happy holidays, and here's to 2024. May it bring us health, wealth, and prosperity.
Thank you very much. Mr. Harrington.
Haya did not meet in December, and I have nothing to report for them. And I'd like to wish you all a Merry Christmas and a safe and Happy New Year.
Thank you very much. I have one item to bring to the council's attention, something for your thoughtful consideration over the holidays before we meet in January. At the January meeting, I will be bringing forward for council's consideration an item to approve my appointment of an exploratory committee regarding cityhood for the village of Holly. There are a number of benefits to the village chartering as a city. Very few, if not no, cons to that I can tell from my research. But that, of course, will be something that exploratory committee will be tasked with exploring. And if approved, of course, then ballot language will follow, and so on and so forth. So, as I say, just something for you all to have on your radar, something for you to think about, perhaps research a bit yourselves over the holidays, between all of your festivities. And with that, I would just like to say happy holidays and Merry Christmas to everyone. As Tiny Tim observed, God bless us, everyone. Meeting is adjourned.
I thought you were going to start.